CubeWire is a self-service platform to manage global theatrical distribution. CubeWire delivers content nationwide and has a growing electronic delivery network for even faster delivery. This network spans over 1,000 theaters and includes 15 of the largest theater chains in the United States. A simple user interface allows distributors to manage and deliver digital cinema packages and keys to theaters across the country. All exhibitors have a customized portal that lists all incoming DCPs and keys. Support is available 24/7 to assist with any issues throughout the process. With no fees for exhibitors and competitive rates to distributors, choose CubeWire for next-gen distribution services. For me, Hamnet, getting to experience that, I think part of the magic of that movie is watching it with strangers in a theater. It really brought back to me that collective movie-going experience in a way that I haven't necessarily felt in a while. So that was really special when you have a room full of people that are all like trying not to show how hard they're weeping.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. Here this week for our annual recap episode, going over the best in the movie theater industry of 2025 in this special episode brought to you by our partners over at CubeWire. Joining us in this week's panel, we've got Rebecca Pahle and Chad Kennerk from Box Office Pro, and our good friend creating on social media and all over the internet, Albert Lawrence, joining us once again. Albert, welcome back to the podcast.
I'm so happy to be back. Like, what a year. What a year.
Yeah, we'll be able to recap a lot of that. I've been seeing you all over my homepage recently. I went to go buy something on Amazon. Albert's face just shows up. I'm over at AMC, and you're all over the place there as well. Man, you're popping around all over the town.
You know, it's been a really cool time getting to collab with AMC so much. And especially, I feel like that opening weekend for Wicked is when a lot of my friends ended up getting to the theater early enough to see that pre-show video. I'm like, hey, is that? Are you taking it like that?
So that's actually what happened. So behind the scenes, I was sent a picture of an undisclosed AMC location, unfortunately flooded. The auditorium had flooded. Ugh. And in the background of the picture in a corner is Albert Lawrence's face on the big screen. And my attention doesn't look at the auditorium flooding. I'm like, Albert, is that you? I'm texting the guy at like 11 p.m. Eastern. But it was you. That's a little bit of good news we picked up from that news tip.
Thank you for that.
Well, we've got an episode just chock full of news here, going over the best in 2025 across a number of categories. Let's start here with the story of the year in theatrical exhibition. And unfortunately, it's going to likely be the story of all of next year, as Warner Brothers is currently for sale. Rebecca, Chad, and I here on the podcast already went over our crash out emotional journey with the implications on exhibition. Albert, you work in this industry and you're also an avid moviegoer. What's at stake for you in the Warner Brothers conversation?
Well, it's funny though, Daniel. I used to work at Warner Brothers. That was one of my first jobs that I had when I moved to Los Angeles. I worked in their TV group, TV marketing, but we'd get a chance to do a lot of crossover stuff with film, especially when it came to Comic-Con. So I've always had a very healthy and then serious tie to hoping that the theatrical releases will continue to thrive. Like I was there when Harry Potters were coming out, right? I was there during the time of Dark Knight and all of that. So for me, regardless of whether it's Paramount that ends up picking this up or Netflix, I just really, really hope that we get a true commitment to continuing to release films theatrically. And I know that, I feel like I'm just one in a massive chorus of people who are singing that exact same song. But I think that it's worth us continuing, especially on a podcast like this, on a platform like this, to continue to keep that in our sights. Because, of course, we have absolutely no idea what direction that the next owner will take things in. I feel like normally when you purchase things with a passion. You purchase things with a certain ambition to not necessarily keep it the exact same way. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time mourning and just hoping that everything stays the same. But I do hope that in this next iteration of Warner Brothers, that we not only still get a chance to really honor the classics, but there is a real commitment to continuing to build fresh new franchises, fresh new films, and to give people a chance to watch them in theaters.
Yeah, it's been a difficult piece of news, I think, for the industry to come to terms with. And we'll be continuing updating this story on our website, boxofficepro.com, and on our print magazine all throughout 2026. No use going a lot more deeper into that story than we have already. The only new development now is I don't know if you guys saw Ted Sarandos showing up at a Canal Plus conference in Paris last week, and all of a sudden changing his tune on theatrical exclusivity.
I was going to say, was he going head to head with the Parisians on theatrical exhibition?
Well, he was exclusivity.
Does it make sense? He would change his tune. You don't go head to head against France with that.
Yeah, you don't show up to France with shorter windows. He did say at that event that the plans for the Netflix acquisition of Warner Brothers would now be to give all those films their current theatrical exclusivity windows, which went against the shareholder and press conference call he did shortly after the Netflix bid got approved. We really don't know what to believe. I think when you're trying to get something past the regulatory powers that be, maybe a lot of things are said, but we'll have to see whatever. We'll have to see what pans out next year. Let's move forward now to talk about the movie of the year in 2025 for the exhibition industry. And to be perfectly honest to our listeners, we kind of struggled with this one. It was a bit of a weird year with a Minecraft movie topping the calendar year box office in 2025. And while that was a great moment, I think, for the entirety of the exhibition industry, where we were all at CinemaCon seeing that opening weekend tracking just go up, 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 and up after a horrible first quarter. That was a very special moment, I think, for all of us. We were tempted to give that this title, but you can't ignore the $2 billion elephant in the room with China's Ne Zha 2, really off the strength of China alone. Outside of China, it was a non-factor, really.
Over here, I think it got released twice, right?
It got two releases. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one in the original language, subtitled, then A24, I think a couple months later, had a dubbed version in English, which had a hard time finding audiences. But really, we're calling out Ne Zha 2 because it's hard to ignore the second title of the post-pandemic era to cross the $2 billion mark, the other one being Avatar: The Way of Water back in 2022. We kind of have to go there and just give it that prize.
If we're looking at box office, though, I mean, like, we can't ignore the live action Lilo and Stitch. We also have to acknowledge what Zootopia 2 has been doing. Speak about the importance of the Chinese box office to films. Like, Zootopia 2 hit over there also, and I feel like in a very savvy time, a very savvy year, because I believe this is the year of the snake. And so to have a snake character at the forefront of this film, incredible, like, just super duper smart and honestly, like, very subtle for those of us that don't know that. Like, we can just still enjoy. We love the cast, we love the colors, we love the expansion of the world. But I'm like, man, y'all are so savvy, Disney.
And then you read the headlines that it opened to 270 million.
Incredible.
It's nuts.
Well, the Chinese market really has been up and down since the pandemic, and to see an MPA title find that much success like Zootopia 2 has had there, in complement, of course, to the blockbuster run from Ne Zha 2 in that country. From a global position, we can't ignore that being the movie of the year. But let's take it on a little bit more of a domestic front when we talk about the industry figure of the year. And this was a tough one to pick. I think if we talk about impact on the business, David Ellison's name would be the one we'd have to bring up here. With the year starting with the Skydance acquisition of Paramount, which at one point we weren't sure if it was going to be Sony buying Paramount. I think we all breathed a sigh of relief once we learned that it would be Skydance with a winning bid there. And to be perfectly honest, would we even be discussing a Warner Brothers sale if David Ellison hadn't sent 3 back-to-back-to-back bids to acquire Warner Brothers before David Zaslav was in a position to put the whole thing up for sale and open bids out to everyone? I'm not sure that would be the case. You know, you can never tell with these issues. I'm sure the industry would have found more reasons to consolidate. This isn't just a one-time thing, but in terms of business impact, David Ellison was a name to consider. In terms of, I think, a great job done. What Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi did heading up Warner Brothers and their slate in 2025 was incredible. I mean, a team of executives that left MGM after the Amazon acquisition, joined David Zaslav to head up the motion picture division at Warner Brothers under the Warner Brothers Discovery banner, and delivered, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame worthy annual slate of films. I think they're definitely in the conversation of industry figures of the year. But ultimately, because we do have the ties we have for exhibition, because this is a year that is marked by consolidation, that is marked by questions on what is a theatrical film and defending the movie-going experience, there's no one better to give this honor to than Sean Baker, the Academy Award-winning filmmaker of films like Tangerine, Red Rocket, Anora, The Florida Project, a filmmaker that at the start of the year at the Academy Awards, with every single statuette that he won, went up there, went to bat for the movie-going experience, spoke in defense of exhibition, was part of the keynote speakers at the Indie Film Exhibition Conference not too long ago, right after the news of the Warner Brothers sale coming out, when no filmmaker put his name out there to speak out in favor of exhibition and speak against the situation, when everybody else was looking at their wallets and what that decision could mean for them personally. Sean Baker, out in the Red Sea Film Festival, went out, criticized it, and said, hey, I'm going to give my next movie a 100-day exclusivity window. This is a guy that doesn't show up to a CinemaCon presentation and compliment the movie-going experience and then acts in a different way. No, he walks the talk. He makes business decisions based on what he believes in. And I think most importantly, in an era where we discuss the theatrical experience as something reserved for an exclusive set of mega blockbusters, this is a DIY filmmaker. This is an independent filmmaker that does not make that type of movie, that is fighting for the movie-going experience, for the independent communities, and for a larger diversity of films. I can't think of a better industry figure to receive this award than Sean Baker. Let's go into the next category here. We have Exhibition Trend of the Year, and there were two topics here that we decided to put up here because it was hard to just pick one. We have both event cinema releases, because we had a fantastic trend here of theaters leaning into non-Hollywood content to fill in quiet weekends at the box office. We saw that with the Taylor Swift album release party. We saw that with exhibitors working with Netflix for an event cinema run of K-pop Demon Hunters. And then on the flip side, we have to talk about it as a trend, the success of anime at the US box office. Every anime film that opened wide overperformed beyond our expectations. We can't ignore either of these trends. Rebecca, you wrote the blurb on this for our magazine. What do you think the impact of these trends meant to exhibitors in 2025?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's no substitute for a strong, robust slate. I'm getting that out of the way first, obviously, not to let any of the studios off the hook on their dating. But I think for both event cinema and anime, what it really boils down to is diversity of content, whether that's diversity in, having an event cinema, event that happens on a Wednesday, or in the case of anime or other event cinema releases, content that appeals to a specific niche audience. Everything doesn't have to be 4-quadrant. Granted, everyone in the world is like a Taylor Swift fan, so maybe that's a separate thing. But yeah, it's really since the virtual print fee has gone away and there's not that financial cost associated so much with taking a risk on something. See if it works, build on it, see what your community wants. If you're looking at something that's a little bit more, an independent theater, something that's more regional. You mentioned the Taylor Swift official release party of A Showgirl, released by AMC. We saw Cinemark do a limited event cinema release of Critical Role, which is a YouTube kind of role-playing game situation. I think that's getting an extended run on Fathom later on. We're seeing Regal, like people are trying things like we're gonna do a live recording of a podcast and we're gonna screen it. I think it's one of the One Direction people. So yeah, it's really exciting to see that in periods where maybe the Hollywood releases either aren't there on the calendar or are there but are underperforming, that there are other options. Because it's not just about making money. Obviously, we have to keep making money as an industry to keep going, but you also want to protect and preserve and promote the identity of cinemas as a place for community, as a place for fans, as a place that is an essential part of forming culture, both like the wider monoculture, Avengers movies, and et cetera, and some of these smaller, more niche things. I mean, you look at anime, and that's something that actually you pretty much only saw it as an event cinema release.
We already implied what was going to win the Studio of the Year by talking about the Hall of Fame level run that the Abdi DeLuca slate had in 2025 for Warner Brothers. So let's just go right out and give Warner Brothers the Distributor of the Year for 2025. I think there were a lot of questions on what David Zaslav's tenure as CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery would give movie-going culture. It wasn't the best start, to put it mildly, but he picked the right people to lead the motion pictures division. And we got a slate with auteurs given Hollywood-level budgets to make movies that probably wouldn't have gotten that same support in most other places in town. Chad, from that Warner Brothers slate in 2025, what were some of your favorites?
I think definitely One Battle After Another and Sinners have to be at the top. I think those were two really big movie-going moments for me this year. Always amazing to be in a theater and be witnessing a film and realizing, I'm watching what's going to be a classic.
Yeah,
right.
The Sinner's dance scene.
But guys, I had that feeling multiple times watching Warner Brothers films this year.
Mm-hmm.
I had that feeling at Sinners, in that D sequence that Rebecca mentions. I had that feeling in Weapons. I had that feeling in One Battle After Another. I mean, even taking something like Superman, which you can't get more IP than Superman, and you turn it into an auteur movie for James Gunn.
That's low-key one of my favorite things about Warner Brothers' slate this year. You have these towering auteur-driven masterpieces like One Battle After Another, and then you have Final Destination Bloodlines. Like
it performed fantastically well. Yeah.
And that was good. I mean, it's a diverse slate, like the Minecraft movie, the highest grossing film of the year domestically. Like you said, Daniel, it's an all-timer. There's something for everybody in there. Not anything that they to release in the fourth quarter, but
yeah, that's the one thing we were missing, right? Some Q4 releases. But I think that's what makes it even more amazing that Warner Brothers was able to do this sitting out the last quarter of the year, which is usually one of the biggest quarters for movie going. Albert, how do you rank this fantastic slate that we had from the studio this year?
Oh, gosh, they just crushed it because we think about the Minecrafts, we think about the Supermans and the Sinners and the One Battle After Another's brilliant Weapons, of course. But then at the beginning of the year, I think sometimes we forget that they had sort of like a quiet start, but still with a really good film with Companion. I really enjoyed.
They were Companion. Companion was good.
Companion. Yeah, it was good. And I know that, remember, in 2024, I think one of the big things, at least coming out of CinemaCon, was survive till 2025. And then when 2025 started, we were like, is this the one we were waiting for? But there were still some really delightful films right there at the top of the year that I think that we forget a little bit because there was such a strong Q2, Q3. And when we talk about films that felt like we were supposed to have something else from Warner Brothers in Q4, I think what we were missing was that Mortal Kombat film, right? Yeah. Which Warner Brothers ended up moving to be in 2026, which in the end, like when we zoom on out and we take a full look at this decade, we may discover that, that was actually a brilliant move because Mortal Kombat ended up filling in a gap of something that we needed in 2026. So we'll see how that goes. But like, as they would say, I am properly sat for the entire Warner Brothers slate this year. Yeah, I didn't even
Mickey 17.
Oh my gosh! Okay, look, I forgot.
I respect Mickey 17. It's not a good movie, but it is in the school of Kid Bong Joon-ho. However much money he wants to do whatever, and sometimes that doesn't pay off.
And you have to respect it because you're better off giving him the money to do it that nobody else is willing to do it. Sometimes it'll work out, sometimes it won't. And let's not forget when
I'll take a Mickey 17 if I also get a One Battle After Another.
This is going to be a series of films that you'll see retrospectives on in rep houses 10, 15, 20 years down the line. That's how good it was. Really a fantastic job by the executive team over there, putting their trust in filmmakers, putting their faith in big films, and not treating franchise sequels as B-tier product. Everything that they made, I think, worked to one extent or another. And I hope I can keep on speaking about this studio in the same way in the coming years. Let's go to the viral marketing campaign of 2025. And there's a couple of campaigns here that we thought of including. I like the attempt from Neon to invite Fortune 500 CEOs to screenings of No Other Choice.
And they hired an intern or something to that effect, right?
Yeah, there's going to be, I think, an intern hire as part of this. That's a cool gag. I appreciated that. The Lionsgate screening of The Long Walk on a Treadmill, I thought was a cool stunt. I don't know if you remember the Bugonia screening from Focus Features that was available to people who are bald. So you had bald screenings there, bald-friendly screenings for that movie. But the number one, Chad, you wrote about this for us, The Log Truck, Final Destination Bloodlines.
2 words, yeah, log truck. Because if you're a millennial, there's a really good chance that you were scarred at a certain age by Final Destination 2 and that scene. And it had already kind of become a meme online, people sharing that memory, and Warner Brothers snatched that up and very cleverly put out log trucks around the globe.
They didn't overdo it. They didn't even need to say that. It's just reminding you, like, hey, we put out good, crazy Rube Goldberg death scenes. Like, it's just reminding you that it's fun. It was a good time at the movies.
Exactly. I think it's that reminder. It's the memories of being in the theater and being traumatized by earlier entries in the series that brought a lot of people back for this new installment.
Chad, it's really funny how somehow Final Destination got to like a core part of just like a human fear, right? Like, and to me, it made it as common as whenever you walk over a grate. I still, like, when I'm in New York and I walk over a grate, I'm like, oh no, like, I hope I don't fall through. I hope something from my pockets doesn't just fall on through. You don't do it, right?
I think I knew to be scared of the log truck before I'd even seen Final Destination
right,
2.
Exactly.
Like, you just...
Exactly.
It was a great marketing campaign and one that completely revitalized a franchise that had been dormant for years. The honorable mention here that we have for the theatrical marketing campaign of the year is Wicked for Good. And Chad, this is a marketing campaign that was a full-on blitz from Universal, and one that we really have to highlight because it wasn't a one-year effort. It was one marketing campaign divided across 2 films that you had to sustain for 12 plus months. How do you think they pulled it off?
Yeah, I feel like they were able to keep the saturation from the first film and expand that to other partnerships, other collabs, other ways of getting it out there in front of not only the core fans, but a much wider audience. I mean, there were mops, there was laundry detergent. They added a lot this time.
Yeah.
And it's particularly impressive because this time the press junket, I don't know if there even was a true full-on press junket rollout for Wicked for Good because they'd done so much for the first Wicked. So those same clips of the like holding space and whatnot, like all of that was still in the zeitgeist, still going viral. And so, like you said, they were able to lean on into more of like the product launches, more of just these random moments that were happening at premieres without necessarily doing the sit-down junket interview with every single journalist.
No, I totally agree. I think it was a job really well done. A harder ask on the marketing end than you initially realize once you figure out that you have to sustain a level of conversation for as long as you do in order to have that level of success a year later. They were able to pull it off magnificently. And now let's go to the viral movie-going moment of the year. And it's something that maybe our friends in Exhibition are going to wish we're not going to say out loud. But if we had 2 words log truck a second ago, right now the 2 words are chicken jockey.
Chicken jockey, baby zombie riding a chicken in a Minecraft movie. And we say this with an asterisk, right? It is not good to go into a movie theater and act like an idiot and yell and scream and throw popcorn around. I am the sort of person who, if somebody's using their phone, I'll tell you, like, I'm a stickler on that sort of thing. That said, the fact that this was so organic, somebody brought a chicken to a screening, like, between the fact that it became such a moment, really just shows that Gen Z audiences, younger audiences, especially when it's something that reminds them of their childhood or just from their childhood, like Minecraft, like you said with the Gentle Minions phenomenon from years back. They love to engage. They want to engage. They want to engage communally. There's a real desire to do that. And it's like definitely easier said than done to glom onto that from a marketing perspective. I think, the generation that's grown up with internet marketing has a very a sharp sense of what feels genuine and what's just trying to get money out of them. So I don't know if you could engineer a chicken jockey situation, but I think there's a lesson in there.
The lesson here, Rebecca, is prepare for it and lean into it. Prepare for it. Know that it's happening. Do you have to cover up the seats? Do you have to make sure that you have enough cleaning supplies?
Yeah, I think Cineworld did like special
screenings.
Engagement screenings.
Yeah, exactly. Prepare for it. Make sure you have clear guidelines on what's not acceptable behavior, and then lean into it.
Talk to your Gen Z staff.
For it, don't fight it. Don't start yelling at a bunch of kids coming out of the theater.
Don't go viral on Reddit.
Teenagers. Lean into it. Play along with it. Just make sure that the boundaries are there and prepare accordingly. Because if you prepare and lean in, those kids are going to come back to your theater.
Mm-hmm. And when all the hand wringing about will Gen Z ever come back to the movie theater, they can have a movie anytime they want. They need an event, an experience. In a lot
and
of
honestly,
cases.
It's not that generation that's lagging behind. It's the 50-plus generation that is lagging behind in terms of coming back. And talking about that Gen Z audience, it's really been the engine driving the fantastic success of anime films at the box office in the post-pandemic era. And the box office surprise of the year, I would have never predicted that Sony's top grossing movie on any given year would be an anime title. That happened this year with Demon Slayer Infinity Castle being a major studio's #1 release in a calendar year. Should we even be calling this an upset anymore, Rebecca?
I think that in this case, yes, I think that a $70.6 million opening for this film puts it firmly in the holy crap, oh my gosh category. The fact that it was Sony's highest grosser of the year, despite the fact that it did have that gigantic second weekend drop that tends to happen with anime titles, with Gen Z oriented titles, dropped 75% in second week, but to open to 70 million, I mean, that's just, I don't think we can refer to anime as a trend really anymore, or as an upset or as a surprise. I think it's been since 2021 when the first Demon Slayer came out here, and we've some of them work to better extents than others, but yeah, I think this movie in particular, how well it did, just surprised everybody.
And, Rebecca, one of the things that I find additionally impressive about the fact that Demon Slayer pulled in such massive numbers is that I think that sometimes when we're concerned about like franchise fatigue and like, our viewer's going to have to do too much homework before they come into a certain movie. Friends, Demon Slayer has been going on, I feel like, forever.
Anime fans are like, no, I've already done the homework. The homework is done. I've watched all 10,000 episodes of Naruto. Going from the days where if you were an anime fan, you got crappy Sailor Moon dubs, or you maybe could like see somebody who liked that stuff at a convention, for it now to be so huge.
It's the multiplex business now. It's a #1 movie at the box office.
$25 billion industry.
Major studio business. It's a completely different type of genre than it was even 6 years ago. And from the highs of the box office, we also have to talk about the lows, the biggest box office disappointments of the year. The easy ones to bring up are Elio from Pixar and Snow White from Disney. These two Disney titles, respectively, being among the lowest, if not the lowest, Pixar releases and Disney live action releases. I don't know if you want to focus too much on these movies because I don't think any of us had anything riding on them here.
Yeah, I don't think Elio's the worst Pixar movie, but I think in part because of all the stuff happening behind the scenes and bringing that film to the screen, bringing it to audiences, I think there was some disconnect there and audiences just didn't turn up for it. It's cute, but it doesn't have the kind of depth that a lot of Pixar titles have.
I'll go one further here, Chad. What we know Pixar for is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like Elio was not a movie that was honest with its own ambitions. Now, it's okay if you want to make a different type of movie, or if a studio is maybe scared of making a specific type of film and change its course at a certain point, that's fine. But if you take one project and you inherently change its motivations and its identity and turn it into something else, you cut corners. And that authenticity that we associate with Pixar films, with the Pixar standard of quality, just was not there in that production. In Snow White, what can I tell you? Is there a good version of Snow White? Is there a good live action version of Snow White? I'm not sure there possibly can be.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, the movie was just, the CGI was awkward. The script was uncompelling. It just felt very inessential.
We also have to mention here in the honorable mentions or dishonorable mentions for the box office disappointment of the year, Megan 2.0. Guys, it was a scary year for Blumhouse in 2025. And it seems like everything Warner's and New Line got right in the genre this year, Blumhouse failed to pull off through a number of different studios. Megan 2.0 being maybe the loudest disappointment in terms of box office sequels. Megan 2.0 didn't even hit in its entire theatrical run the opening weekend take of the first one.
It didn't need to be that way. It just feel like they got very greedy with it, or just... I love sequels that when they lean hard into the fan element. I'm thinking like a Magic Mike XXL, excellent film. But yeah, with Megan 2.0, they should have given it some time, saw how things settled, and not think that one viral, admittedly massively viral part of the marketing campaign was going to sustain you through more than one movie. And don't release it in the summer.
Yeah. I've never seen a character sort of enter the horror canon as fast as Megan did. And I think for me, seeing them turn her into an anti-hero, superhero kind of thing, I think that's what missed the mark.
Like the adult badass with the fighting and
She was welcomed into the Horror Hall of Fame and promptly let out of the club. Like within a year's time. So we rescind your membership. Thank you very much.
As you're recording this, didn't the spinoff Soulmate, but was like on the calendar for January forever. But we were talking about this just the other day. Like there's not a trailer, there's not a poster, there's nothing. They just finally announced that they're shelving it.
Yeah, they're shelving it. It's off the release calendar. They're trying to figure out what to do with this. Yeah, bad creative decisions. And I don't know if greed is part of it, but I think you used a word earlier, Rebecca, that I liked a lot. Inessential. Do you need a sequel for it? Do you need a sequel now? Is there a story to back up that sequel, to get everything back together this quickly? And I'm not sure that was a positive answer from audiences on this one. And that wraps up our awards here that the publication gives out very haphazardly every year on this podcast. Now let's go to our personal favorites of the year. Let's start out with our favorite performances of 2025 with our resident actor here, Chad. I always like to go with you because this is one of the factors that you always bring up whenever we talk about movies. What were your top performances of the year?
Jesse Buckley, I think hands down, is the best performance that I saw this year, that I experienced this year. I experienced it more than I saw it. I'm ready for them to hand her an Oscar. Like, just give her the Oscar now. Yeah, in Hamnet, I really was also my top film of the year. And yeah, so I felt that performance was the one for me. And then also Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon, similarly, just felt that performance all the way through. It's almost like a one-man show in the way that Ethan Hawke takes that character and takes you on an entire journey throughout that night. So those would be my box office Oscar picks.
How about you, Albert? What did you have for the best performances of the year?
I was really moved by the dog in Good Boy. The dog, his name is Indy, friends. And
that
if you
dog
don't
is
know
a star. That's the most charismatic.
So charismatic. Like, and believe it or not, like, he's not a professional actor. I remember when I saw Good Boy in theaters, at the end of the movie, there's actually sort of like a making of featurette that the director does. And in this making of featurette, like he walks you through exactly how he got his dog Indy in order to give those expressions. In the movie Good Boy, it's about this dog who goes along with his owner into some very dark, scary, mysterious spaces. So the amount of pathos that little pup really instilled within me, I got to give it up to him. But also, in a film that I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk about this film anymore during this particular episode, but The Fantastic Four, First Steps, Vanessa Kirby did a lot of heavy lifting in that film. She found a way to make Sue Storm a figure who was not relegated to, as some would criticize some other films for making women, quote unquote, just mothers, although like the role of a mother is a massive role. But Sue Storm was a mother in this, but Sue Storm also was out to save the planet. She was like quite a patient wife. She was an incredible sister in this, a mentor, the person who you needed to rely upon in order for the planet to survive Galactus. So Vanessa Kirby, I got to give you your flowers in this one.
We've already mentioned Amy Madigan in Weapons and Gladys. I'm speechless. I'm just speechless. I also really like Julia Garner's performance. Rewatching it, all the performances are incredibly good, incredibly solid. But the way that Julia Garner sounds kind of like squeaky, almost like a mouse, like she's a mouse in a trap, and it's just an unexpected a series of choices. It feels like a very unself-conscious take, I guess. And then you had Alden Ehrenreich doing his John C. Reilly from Magnolia. Though I also have to shout out, aside from Weapons, one of my favorite movies of the year was A24's Friendship. Albert, I see that's one you enjoyed as well. It's really tough to describe that movie or that type of character that Tim Robinson is doing.
And you know what? I probably would have listed Tim Robinson somewhere among my performances. I didn't, because I don't know if you saw The Chair Company on HBO. And I think that was just so incredibly superior, even though a lot of the same creative team from Friendship is in The Chair Company. I think I actually want to go to Haunted House more than I want to go to Club Aqua. I actually like The Chair Company a lot more than I liked Friendship. On my end, I agree with you. I think Amy Madigan in Weapons is the one performance that you won't forget. You will not forget that performance. And she turns the movie. There was a massive smile on my face as soon as she makes her entrance in the third act of Weapons. And it's a movie that I was terrified up until she walks into the school guidance counselor's office and has her first lines of dialogue. At that point, I'm like, oh, we're having fun now. I was scared out of my mind. I was gripping the seat, and I just relax and laugh for the entirety of the rest of that movie after she comes in.
And then you get to the very end of her eventual fate, and that's grisly. Like, it kind of switches
terrifying.
Gears on you again.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, you've been kind of, she's a funny sort of, and then the ending, that final line is sort of my final, final lines of the movie. Some of them even started talking this year. Like, those kids got messed up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other more actor than performance, because I always like to highlight actors that are taking roles that I find interesting and that have a flexibility in playing with art house and genre. I mentioned this on the podcast earlier this year that up to the release of Predator Badlands, I was calling out actors saying, hey, I wish we had more Adrian Brody's, who's willing to be in The Pianist and is going to be in a Predator sequel. And I'd love to see that more. Well, the same weekend that Predator Badlands starring Elle Fanning comes out, Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value comes out, co-starring Elle Fanning. Same weekend, Sentimental Value does great business in terms of per screen average and platform release. And Predator Badlands tops the box office, I think, that weekend. Ends up becoming the highest grossing Predator movie in franchise history.
She had two great roles in that one.
Yeah, exactly. Two great roles in that same movie, in Predator Badlands. It was a very good Elle Fanning weekend for you to see an actor that is confident in the type of roles in movies she's going to be in and that tries just as hard no matter what type of movie it is. So I want to give Elle Fanning a massive shout out. That wraps up our picks for best performances of 2025. Let's talk about favorite movie-going moments of the year, our moments at a cinema that we're going to take with us. I'll open with mine, and I don't know if it coincides with yours, Rebecca, going to see Surat at the New York Film Festival at the Film Society at Lincoln Center. for me still was the best experience I had going to the movies.
I wish I'd seen that
feeling
with the
something.
crowd. Like, I wish I'd seen it with the crowd instead of just on a screener, because like a crowd full of people not knowing where that movie's going.
It was great. I mean, audible gasps throughout the entire film. For anyone listening, go give this movie a chance. I don't know what Neon's doing with the release of this, but I really hope it gets a good push in 2026. How about you, Rebecca? What was on your pick for movie-going moment of the year?
So I have for one from a new film and one from Rep. For Rep Cinema, I don't know if you remember back in like March, they re-released a restoration of Purple Rain back into Dolby Cinemas for like one day. It wasn't tied to an anniversary or anything. Like, I don't know why they did it.
Out?
Yeah, they just put it out for one day.
Oh, great.
And it was so needed for me in that in March, everything's kind of dreary. Like, I just want to go and see Purple Rain. And in Atmos, the sound was so good. Like, it feels like Prince's charisma really shines through. And then, the wall outside the Dolby where they had like the promotional images, like people were like stopping to take their pictures on the way out with Prince on a motorcycle. Eric took my picture, I think. Like, it felt good to be in a room full of people who could just, like, when Purple Rain starts, the song. Yes, this is why some people are stars. He can do everything. Can he act? No. He's charismatic as hell, and he doesn't need to. I also have to say the car chase scene from One Battle After Another. I think I saw that film for the first time on 70, and it looked so good. I don't know how you make a car chase scene with 3 cars, 3 drivers, and just a long road with hills on it, and like not even that fast speeds. How do you make that interesting? Only he could do it. I mean, it was tense for a very
unforgettable. I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I was at the AMC place in Miami for Show East. For Cinelat Am. And I was just like, I was sitting next to Sperling Reich. I was just like gripping my seat, just like, I have to go so bad. But you hold it. You hold it for P.T. Anderson. You hold it in that scene. Chad, how about on your end? What were your movie-going moments of the year?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but for me, Hamnet, getting to experience that, I think part of the magic of that movie is watching it with strangers in a theater. It really brought back to me that collective movie-going experience in a way that I haven't necessarily felt in a while. So that was really special when you have a room full of people that are all like trying not to show how hard they're weeping. Yeah, so that one was definitely up there for me. And then I think just the anticipation for Wicked for Good, going and seeing everyone from little kids to adults dressed in like full costumes, green and pink everywhere. At the screening I was at, they were actually playing the soundtrack from the first film, and they timed it to where that soundtrack ended, and then they started Wicked for Good. And there were people in the audience during Defying Gravity. They were like fist pumping the air, and so it was a great collective experience as well.
Albert, what were your favorite movie-going moments of the year?
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned watching films with your partner. I feel like that is such a strong part of the cinematic experience that stuck along with me this year too. And whether that was with my fiance or with my dad, Sinners was incredible for me. I saw it in multiple formats. I saw it in 70 millimeter IMAX at the AMC Universal City. And that was epic, because I think at this point too, you got a chance to pick up one of the limited edition like little film strips.
I have one in my house. Yeah, I have it right by my window. So when the lights you're saying it like mini projects, it was a nice memento.
It's such a great memento. And I remember just being so excited about that. And by that time, multiple people there had already seen the film, but we were just returning, but not just getting the strip and leaving. We got the strip and then we stayed and watched it all over again. So there were moments where I genuinely choked up during that film, whether it was like during the long drive where Delroy Lindo's character is telling this heartbreaking story. Like I was like, hold on, why am I feeling this here right now? Like I'm choking up at a different point than when I did last time. And it moved me so much that my dad, my parents, my family, they live in Virginia. I live out here in LA, but like I flew back to Virginia because I wanted to take my dad to see this movie.
Mm.
I can't remember the last time my dad was at a movie theater. So he was like a kid, like he got the popcorn and got him the candy. And it just felt really, really emotional to be able to share that with him. And I love that. On a completely different realm, seeing Avatar Fire and Ash in 3D. Like, that's something this holiday season, I think we're all going to be doing it by this point. Like, it's a mandate that, like, when Avatar drops, like, you never skip a Cameron, right? So you got to go ahead and do that. And watching that, just even watching those opening frames, I immediately was transported back to Pandora and felt like I was sitting in a video game. Like, I feel like Avatar to me is more of a video game than even Minecraft. It is, just because we were in there, those special effects, the graphics. And this time around, James Cameron has been doing a lot of sharing about how he doesn't want us to view this as like a computer generated movie, right? Like, it's really about, like, Chad, to your interest, like the performances. It's really about the actors doing their thing, and the technology is just there in order to help to support that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that does this season.
Yeah, that anecdote you gave about like flying back home to see something with your dad. I had that with F1 the movie, where I coincided with my dad in Austin. I'd seen F1 3 times already. I saw it a 4th time just because I wanted to see it with him. Rebecca, you have this with your family every Christmas, your Christmas movie that you guys always decide this is going to be it. And you know what? I didn't have this on the list, but if you guys want to share your ugly cry movie of the year, if any movie made you ugly cry, Chad, it must have been Hamnet for you.
It was, yeah.
Okay, you ugly cried in Hamnet. I ugly cried in Train Dreams from Netflix. I didn't catch that theatrically. I watched that at home. I ugly cried for a good 30 minutes during, like, after the credits on that one. Albert, Rebecca, did you guys have an ugly cry movie this year?
Well, Focus Features just set me up for the end of the year this time, because, like you, Chad, Hamnet got me to the point to when the lights came up, the stranger sitting next to me was like, "Are you okay?" And then the next Focus release, and I think that this might come out on the 19th
Christmas
December.
Day. Christmas Day.
Yeah, Christmas Day, yes. A Song Sung Blue. I didn't know the story behind it. Like, I am nobody's biggest Neil Diamond fan. I was like, I think I'll just be fine with this. I walked into that film and was just not prepared to be walloped. My heart was tossed into a blender. And that one, honestly, like, tore me up even more than Hamnet did. So please bring your tissues for that one. Even if you only know Sweet Caroline, you are going to, you're not ready.
That played actually at Cinelat in Miami back in September. And I remember once the bus came back with all the exhibitors, people were still like sniffling as they were walking through the hotel lobby. Very, very effective film. Well, we're going through all these emotional roller coasters of going to the movies. Let's talk about our favorite needle drop moment with the movie this year. I'll open with my own. I think that the first 5 minutes and last 5 minutes of James Gunn's Superman are perfect. I think the movie that happens between that isn't a particularly good movie, but all you need is the first 5 and the last 5 and you're good. And really putting the Teddy Bear Stockholm track Punk Rocker with Iggy Pop to close out Superman was so perfect. That for me is definitely at the top of my list. An honorable mention for the opening of Warfare, the film by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, with the opening scene with that song from the mid-2000s, Call on Me. You guys remember that? Like, oddly erotic music video set to the techno music. Fantastic, fantastic needle drop. The only smile you will crack in the movie Warfare, but it works structurally in that film. Chad, on your end, what was your favorite needle drop moment of 2025 at the movies?
I mean, it is the moment in Sinners where you sort of sit there and go, oh, okay, now I understand
like
what
the
this
jaw
movie...
drop moment.
Yeah,
that's what happened to me. I'm watching Sinners, having a great time. That musical sequence in the middle of the film, it's a jaw drop moment. My mouth was open the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one that I actually got choked up during that moment of it as well. Yeah, just the synergy of everything that's happening visually and orally.
Yeah, the choice to bring in from like different time periods, the history of the cultures of different characters and their dance traditions. I mean, that's an all-timer. That's an all-time great scene, I think. Though I also like the needle drop in Together of Spice Girls 2 Become One. Because I recognized it before. I was like, wait, this is Two Become One. That's
I'm
very
so
fitting.
glad they put that in there, by the way.
Yes. So that one was, I appreciate that just on the face of it, and it worked really well at the point in the film where they used it.
Albert, I know you have a relatively recent track for your needle drop moment of the year.
For sure. So for me, one of the biggest ones was from Begonia, A Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan. And what I liked about this was in a lot of the promotion for the film, you actually hear this song, right? So Emma Stone's character is lip syncing to this song in a bunch of the trailers for the film. And so when I saw the film, I didn't know that the song was actually going to be played in there. So I started listening to the song in preparation to watch the film, and the lyrics were just kind of washing over me. And so by the time I saw the film, there's one lyric in particular that stood out. And I'm like, oh, you guys are so clever for this. The line goes, "You'd have to stop the world just to stop the feeling." And Chappell Roan is singing about something completely different in the context of the song, but in the context of this film, not to spoil anything at all, but that line becomes so prescient. So I thought that the level of cleverness was there. It touched me, and it gave me new appreciation for the track, first off. And then while we're talking about those tears that Hamnet just went ahead and vacuumed out of all of us, On the Nature of Daylight. Now, this is a song that we've also heard in other films. I want to say that it played a prominent role in Arrival. It's a very popular piece of music now at this point, but I fear as though Hamnet might own it now. It'll be difficult to go ahead and incorporate this into your film in order to activate the waterworks on folks after seeing exactly how Chloe Zhao incorporates it into Hamnet.
Well, now let's talk about our favorite movies of the year. I know Albert and I have top 10s. Chad and Rebecca, I don't know if you guys have a top 10 you want to share with us, or just a number of movies, whatever the number they are, that you want to say that really rank among your favorites of this year.
I am too much of a perfectionist to create a top 10 list in mid-December. No, and I think we were talking about this earlier, too. There are a lot of the screeners of movies that I really enjoyed that are doing the awards qualifying run.
I think Rebecca's still working on her 1997 top 10.
I'm sort of working my way through the 50s.
Yeah, little by little. I completely respect that. Chad, on your end, what were some of your favorite movies this year?
Yeah, I have those similar anxieties as well, Rebecca, trying to hone it down to 10, but a few of them that I really enjoyed. Hamnet, definitely my number one, but also have to add Marty Supreme, Sinners, Materialist, One Battle After Another, Blue Moon, Is This Thing On, and Wicked for Good to that list.
Yeah, I think a great class of films to be part of this conversation. Albert, we're going to probably close up with our top 10 of the year. Let's start with yours, because you had a movie that didn't make my top 10 by a hair. I mean, if this was a top 15, I definitely would have put it in there. But it was, I think, among the best movies of the year, and definitely one I'm going to rewatch a lot more than some of the movies in my own top 10 that I'll probably forget about in 5-6 years down the line. Your number one, Sinners, is an unforgettable movie-going experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we shared a little bit about why it speaks to me just from an emotional space now. But it also occupies, and no coincidence that this other one is a Ryan Coogler one as well. But like Black Panther, I remember like that also just felt like such a huge moment to be able to bond with others culturally, watch it over and over and over again, have your favorite lines. So for me, Sinners is going right in that canon for me as number one. And then right afterwards, and I promise you, this is not a Warner Brothers sponsored list, but like my top three happen to be all from Warner Brothers. So for me, number one was Sinners. Number two was Weapons. My third was One Battle After Another. And then my fourth, I was like, let's get goofy with it. Let's get silly with it. So Friendship had to pop on in there. I mean, number five was Thunderbolts, which was like coming into 2025. This was not the superhero film that I thought I was going to enjoy the most. I was most anticipating the Fantastic Four, First Steps. I was also looking forward to Captain America and, of course, Superman. But like Thunderbolts, which was, I knew the least about these characters going into the film, and I felt like they had such a wonderful time performing together. So I, in turn, enjoyed watching them. Shout out to Florence Pugh, really holding it down, leading that. And then it was just an accident at number 6. My goodness, I saw this yesterday, and I was sitting in the theater like, Like Jafar Panahi did so much with so little. Like, so when you talk about being resourceful, and Daniel, I'm going to leave you to this because I know that this is also on your list, but just in thinking about the filmmaking technique that he employed in order to get away with making this film, I'm incredibly impressed and was wrapped. My attention was wrapped. Number 7 for me was Superman. Superman is a superhero for me who I think is very difficult to make work on the big screen, especially when it's a film totally surrounding him because he's so freaking perfect. But they did it with this one. I feel like David Cornsweet was an excellent addition to the DC universe. I feel like it was perfectly cast and introduced me to a character who I wasn't familiar with before, who was Mr. Terrific. And now I need to see a Mr. Terrific spinoff or something. We got to get that going on.
It feels so good that Eddie Gathegi got his superhero role after they killed Darwin off for no reason.
No reason. Why?
His superhero power is literally that he cannot die, basically.
You know what? Talking about Superman and the Warner Brothers slate, and again, they're not paying us for all this free promotion. I wish they were. But talking about Superman, it's a movie that at some point just wants to have fun. And we can say that about so many Warner Brothers movies this year. Sinners just wants to have fun. You know, Final Destination just wants to give you a good time. Even One Battle After Another. You'd think P.T. Anderson can be a pretty dreary filmmaker sometimes, pretty heady issues. At a certain point, you just want to crack open a few small beers and have a good time with your buddies watching it, right? The entire Warner Brothers slate, at some point watching every one of those movies, it made you smile. And that's something really hard to do.
I love Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. His whole motivation was just, he just really doesn't like Superman. He decided he hates this dude. I love it. I don't need more than that. He's petty and he's bald and he's rich.
Yes, the petty level, and he like really embraces it too. We love that. So closing mine out real quick. Number 8, Begonia. I spoke a little bit about why I enjoyed this film when I talked about the song, but yeah, like Emma Stone kept me guessing all the way up to the end.
Me too. I was all in on it. I mean, 5 minutes in with a high concept on the kidnapping, on the conspiracy plot. It was a great time at the movies.
And actually, it's funny you mentioned that, Daniel, because when I was watching, it was just an accident. It was actually making me think about Begonia because it was just an accident. Also had me thinking, like, is this the guy? Is this who we're actually looking at? You know, yeah.
Very similar movies. I think it's a good shout that you're comparing them in that regard. It's a good double feature.
Good double feature. And then, Chad, you mentioned Materialists. I saw this one twice because I wasn't sure what I thought the first time around. And I just enjoyed it. I thought Celine Song has a voice. And the way that Celine Song expresses herself on film, especially after seeing Past Lives, I think I've subscribed, basically. I think I have a season pass to Celine Song. I'll see whatever it is that she puts out. And then number 10, a really golden selection, K-pop Demon Hunters. And I waited to see this too. Like I heard the hype and I was like, what are people talking about? What are they talking about? And then finally I was like, if I'm going to participate in pop culture, I have to watch this thing. I watched it. I was there. I was there for the soda pop. I was there for the golden. I was there for the entire experience. So fun year in film.
No, I think it's a fantastic top 10. I think we all coincide in a number of these. I'll go over mine quickly because as quickly as possible in context, because we've already talked about many of them. One Battle After Another, like Rebecca, for me is the top movie of the year. I'd love to be more contrarian. I can't. Not with a movie this good. It's realizing the potential of what happens to an art house filmmaker when you give him a Hollywood-sized budget and he delivers. Telling the story of a burnt out soldier of a failed revolution, a protagonist that is completely ineffective at everything he does. The performances here were fantastic. I think Benicio del Toro brings a smile to your face in every scene. The insecurity that Sean Penn injects the Lockjaw character with, I think really elevates that
stupid
character.
thing he does with his hair, like the walk, his weird little waddle walk.
His waddle walk, the fact that everyone knows he's short and he knows he's short. There's a chip on that character's shoulder that he's just as much an outsider as every other character in that movie, but he's playing a very different, Javert sort of role in the film.
It's such a good performance.
And the set pieces. Let's not forget the set pieces. I think the set pieces were cinematic. And again, it's a movie that I will return to and rewatch again and again. Definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. My number 2, maybe a divisive title here, is Eddington, an A24 movie from Ari Aster. I think I mentioned this in the podcast before. Eddington is probably the most vicious critique of American culture and society since Lars von Trier's Dogville. That's not for everybody. And I think it's the best satire about American life since Robert Altman's Nashville. I think it's that good. It talks about the grifter culture that happened in 2020 across the political spectrum. Everybody was out there with a scam. And it's a movie about, looking at those scams and seeing them run their course through fruition. There's not a likable character in the entire film. And I know, again, that's not for everybody, but it was definitely for me. And again, going back to what we went through in this job, Rebecca, 2020 sucked. I mean, it was a year where I think a lot of my personal, political, and social beliefs were pushed and tested. And to see that satirized in a film that is doing nobody any favors, that doesn't want to play nice, was extremely refreshing for me.
I don't know how he made that. Like, I just spent 2020. I didn't want to get off the sofa. I didn't want to get out of bed. Like, he crystallized something that would, looking back, become very, very prescient.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Eddington actually is going to be one of those films that ages well? That maybe give us a couple more years?
It is way too aggressive and vicious about a very sensitive and very fresh wound, I think, in American culture to be appreciated this year. And definitely by audiences here in the US. I think that's going to find an audience in other countries in a couple of years' time. And that reputation will come back. And in the same way that I think Ari Aster's Hereditary is the movie that encapsulates everything that happened in 2016, where the most dangerous and scary place you could be in was in a multi-generational home, and realizing what grandma's beliefs were on a personal level and contending with them and coming to terms with that, and all of that drama that happened around every dinner table in this country in the fall of 2016. Hereditary, not on purpose, but I think Hereditary very much connected me to that point in time, and I think reflected that time period. The defining movie of 2020, of the pandemic, is Eddington and the post-pandemic period. I think it's a masterpiece. I'm not afraid of using that word for it. The only reason it's not a number one is because you have a film that's easier to rewatch ahead of it. One Battle After Another is the movie you invite your friends to go see. Eddington is a movie that the friend you suggested it to doesn't talk to you for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And then they're like, I can't stop thinking about that movie.
Exactly. I really, really do recommend that with all my power. And I say the same thing about my number 3 movie, The Secret Agent, the Brazilian film from Kleber Mendonça Filho, distributed by Neon, which came out, I believe, in limited release over Thanksgiving, probably making its expansion nationwide in the coming weeks. I think The Secret Agent, in the same way that One Battle After Another contends with a socio-political moment from a contemporary level by looking at different things across time, the same way that Eddington talks about the present socio-political moment by looking back to 2020, The Secret Agent does the same thing from a Brazilian perspective, looking back at 1977 Brazil during the dictatorship. Now, it does so in a way that I think if you're from Latin America, no matter what country from Latin America you're from, you're going to watch The Secret Agent and you're going to say, that looks like my country. And when I was talking to Kleber at the New York Film Festival for an interview we did for the magazine, he said, you know what, this movie could be shot in Texas. It could be set in Texas. It could be set in Louisiana. There's a power and a universality to this movie that I think really resonates. I think it's a fantastic film, by far the best import coming to theaters here in the United States from a different country.
I watched it on your recommendation. It's really, really something else. It's I love that it matches in with those others in terms of dealing with the history and the legacy of really bad things.
Yeah, and talk about ugly cry moments. I had an ugly cry moment at the end of The Secret Agent. There's a coda there that doesn't need to be there, but I think really adds some emotional weight to the film. Highly recommended, Secret Agent. And now number 4 was my ugly cry movie of the year. Train Dreams is a movie that broke me because of course it would. Beautiful film. I unfortunately had to see it at home because I missed out on the 2-week window Netflix gave it in theaters. It's a crime that I saw it at home, but it's the only place I could find it. But it's definitely a movie worth seeking out. It's a beautiful film and another example of a quote-unquote small movie doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a theatrical experience. I recommend folks to check that out. Number 5 was Marty Supreme, the Josh Safdie picture coming out in Christmas. You guys know I'm a big Rocky fan. I like my formulaic sports movies. What Rocky is to Philadelphia sports culture, Marty Supreme is to New York City sports culture. It's a hustler's movie. And anyone that's ever lived in New York City knows that you have to lie, cheat, and steal in faking it until you make rent, because that's what we go through in this city
I love
every
Uncut
month.
Gems. If it's like, I mean, it sounds similar to that.
It's really a spiritual prequel to Uncut Gems. Maybe the most dislikable protagonist you'll see all year, but one that you're rooting for the entire time. A fantastic performance from Timothée Chalamet. The ensemble performances here are great. The casting was fantastic. There was an Instagram reel skit that someone did talking about David Lynch films, saying that the actors are either Oscar winners or found on Craigslist. That's how I feel about the ensemble in Marty Supreme. It's either like A-list actors or people off of Craigslist.
But where did
and
you
they
find
all
these
do
people?
really well.
So to me, it's so random. Like, I still don't understand how Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank fame is in this film. Like,
What?
Oh, Rebecca, he's the villain of the year. He's the best villain of the year. It's wonderful.
He's a villain in real life, so I'm good with that.
It was such a great effort in casting. And the whole film, listen, it's overly long. I appreciate that. I acknowledge that. But it's a fun watch. It's a fun watch. And anyone that's ever spent any time living in New York City will immediately identify with what you see on the screen. Every time you live in this city, you feel you're one lucky bounce away from being on top of the world, but the system's always stacked up against you, no matter how hard you try. You're always come 2 inches away from achieving your goals before they move the goalposts. That's how this movie feels like. It's a New Yorker movie, and I don't have any other way of describing Marty Supreme other than a perfect New York City movie. On number 6, I shared the same spot here on my ranking with Albert. For Jafar Panahi's It Was Just an Accident, the Palme d'Or winner at the Cannes Film Festival. A lot has been written on this movie. I think Albert and I are probably going to struggle to describe it or sell it appropriately. The high concept here is it's a movie about a man who runs into a person he believes is the person who jailed him and tortured him for many years. So he captures him, but he has to verify that the person in his trunk is actually his jailer. And it's the story that transpires over the next couple of hours is a beautiful parable, a very touching movie, and an ending that you will never forget. I don't want to go into too much detail beyond that, but it's a must watch this year. And at number 7, another title that I believe premiered at the Cannes Film Festival was Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice, coming out from Neon on Christmas Day, I believe. It's hard for me looking at an industry that we're in, an industry where you've seen so much consolidation. You've seen so many talented people lose their jobs over the last 5 years, really in the post-pandemic period. People that would be fantastic candidates at any other industry, and see them go through periods that, frankly, I will likely go through at some point in my career working in this business. And it's hard not to relate to a movie like No Other Choice. I think it's another movie that reflects everything that happened this year very accurately. Rebecca, you also are a big fan of this one.
Yeah, I really liked it. It reminds me, it sort of echoes Eddington with what you said about, like, you can't get ahead or even stay where you are without grift. You got to grift, which is very depressing. But yeah, it's a great. I love Lee Byung-hun. Yeah, it's just a depressing movie to watch.
Yeah,
but,
not a rewatchable,
but
right?
very beautiful. Some of those shots are great. I mean, for a movie that's basically set in houses and fairly normal settings.
And it doesn't mean that these movies were built to comment on the culture, on society. Of course, they're written, greenlit, and produced years and months before the moment we're in. But it's kind of hard to disassociate the cultural moment that we're living through when we watch these movies. So really my top 10 of any given year are going to be movies that reflect the year that I'm in, right? And if you ask me for a top 10 of a decade, it would be a very different list. But yeah, if you talk about 2025, the economic realities, the job market of 2025, I think is perfectly satirized in Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice. Number 8 is a film that's a little bit hard to find. A documentary from movie by the director Albert Serra is Afternoons of Solitude. Thrilling movie, probably the best shot film of the year, the most visually interesting movie of the year. This is a documentary about a bullfighter. If you have a weak stomach, it's not for you. It's difficult scenes involving bullfighting that are depicted in the film. But if you have patience with it, if you can look past that, and I completely understand those audiences that don't sign on to it. I get it 100%. I understand it. But coming from someone who grew up in Mexico with bullfighting being a big part of the culture, my parents' house is right across the street from the bull ring. The house that I grew up in as a kid was a short drive from another bull ring. Obviously, the New Year's holiday, that was a big tradition, going to see the bullfights. You can definitely have mixed feelings, as I do, on that practice. But to see a documentary about that life, about what it takes, about everything involved in it, a documentary that's not didactic, that does not take a moral position. This is one that tells its story visually, and one that is going to be hard to forget if you decide to watch it. And then number 9, I think we already spoke about weapons quite a bit on this podcast. Like you guys, it was a really fun time at the movies, and especially in this era of elevated horror, sometimes you just want to watch a movie with a witch in it. And sometimes a witch is just a witch. There's no more metaphors. Sometimes you can just, strap onto a fun roller coaster ride and enjoy it. And finally, my number 10 movie of the year was Warfare from Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland. A very difficult watch. Definitely not a movie for me to revisit anytime soon. But movie set in the Iraq War in 2006, telling a real situation that happened, a combat situation that went awry. And seeing this movie, I think, was effective in a way that few war movies are for me. I'm not the most jingoistic person. If it's the US, if it's Mexico, if it's anywhere, it's not in my nature to celebrate countries or nationalism outside of soccer tournaments. But this film isn't that. I think it's a more intimate, harder look at what goes into these situations. And that basically wraps up my top 10 here, along with Albert, our 2 submissions for the 10 best films of the year. Chad and Rebecca will also be sharing their more comprehensive lists on our website, boxofficepro.com. So please go check in on that when you get a chance. For everybody listening at home, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations to everybody that we gave our awards to earlier in this conversation. And we are excited to welcome you to another year of coverage in 2026, starting with next week's episode. Thank you for joining us.